The Baltimore Ravens could be poised for great news after a big NFL domino falls. We talk about that. Kyle Van Noy ripping a Roquan Smith hater, and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here today on this Purple Friday, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day, free and available on all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe as well. We bring you 5 days a week of Locked On Ravens content here every Monday through Friday. The regular show is Monday through Friday, plus we have the Ravens Squad show, which is live Mondays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we have a lot of Ravens content for you all the time on Locked On Ravens. And thanks so much out there to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners, and if you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. We are days away from the Ravens Veterans Report into training camp. That coming up on Tuesday. So we just have the weekend to go. Really excited about that. We have a jam-packed show today. In the final part of the show, there's some good news on Mike Green. Finally, some good news on Mike Green. We'll talk about that. And honestly, what my expectations are for Mike Green this season. So we'll get into that in the final part of the show. Second part of the show, late last night, Kyle Van Noy took to social media and just ripped that anonymous assistant that blasted Roquan Smith during Jeremy Fowler's rankings. We'll talk about that in the second part of the show. We talked about it yesterday, but we have to come back to it because of what Kyle Van Noy said, and we'll get to what he said. But in the first part of the show, the Ravens could be poised for some good news after a big NFL domino fall. So we'll get into that here. The Ravens have a gauntlet of a schedule in the first 6 weeks, honestly the whole year, but the first 6 weeks of the season is absolutely ridiculous in terms of the difficulty. Now, it doesn't mean the Ravens can't come out with a good record because they themselves are a very difficult opponent for teams to play. But 5 of their first 6 games are against division winners from last season. And that's a gauntlet. I mean, I'll read them off here. You know, you have the Bills in week 1. That's obviously the Sunday Night Football opener game. Then you have the Browns in week 2, Lions week 3, Chiefs week 4, Texans week 5, and Rams in week 6. Now, a big domino fell yesterday in regards to one of the Ravens' opponents and potentially the availability of one of those star players on the opponent's team. Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He was involved in a multi-car crash during last offseason. It was released yesterday that, this is via Adam Schefter, a Dallas County judge just sentenced Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice to 5 years probation and 30 days jail time that can be served during those 5 years stemming from his role in a multi-car crash in Dallas during the 2024 season. Now, you might be saying, Kevin, this is a Ravens show. Why are you talking about Rashee Rice and his punishment for that car crash? Well, the reason I am talking about it on a Ravens show is because Adam Schefter then added on to this. Now that the judge has ruled, the NFL can expedite its disciplinary process, and Rice is likely to receive a multi-game suspension. And this is big news for the Ravens because with Baltimore and Kansas City matching up in week 4, there is a realistic shot. You know, it's not guaranteed. We don't know how many games the suspension is going to be for Rashee Rice. But if there is a multi-game suspension handed down, there is a possibility Rashee Rice misses that Ravens game. Now, you know, you always want to beat your opponents while they're at their best and, you know, you make that whole situation happen. But we know that Rashee Rice is a really important player to that Chiefs offense. You know, the Chiefs missed him last season when he went down on that unfortunate play. You know, you never wish injury, you know, in sports. But to me, I feel like that'd be a big loss for Kansas City if we're talking about an offense that when Rashee Rice is on the field, you also have Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce. If Rashee Rice isn't available, that is a break for the Ravens. And, you know, you do take any break that you can get. So it's possible. Now, Rice could maybe get a 2-game suspension, 3-game suspension, and then he'll come back by the time the Ravens and Chiefs play. That's possible too. It's not a guarantee that he misses that Ravens game. And obviously, if the Ravens and Chiefs match up in the postseason, then that multi-game suspension probably would already be served. But still, it's a big domino here. There were rumblings and rumors that people were wondering if there was going to be action taken last offseason. The Ravens and Chiefs obviously played week 1 last year. Didn't happen. And Rice was available for that game. And speaking of Roquan Smith, the stuff we talked about on yesterday's show, Rashee Rice was one of the players who from the slot just absolutely cooked the Ravens middle linebackers, Roquan Smith and Malik Harrison, Trenton Simpson. Everybody was getting work when the Chiefs receivers were in the slot covered by Ravens linebackers. So, it's important to start a season off fast, especially in the first month of the season, especially with the way Baltimore's schedule looks right now. And, if Rashee Rice does play in that game, just, talk about the matchups in particular. With the Ravens addition of Jaire Alexander, I still think the Ravens could handle that Chiefs offense. I think the Ravens defense and that secondary can handle most, if not all, offenses in the NFL when everybody is clicking. Now, to get that for a full 17 games, every single unit clicking, it's sports. Things happen sometimes, right? But you build a secondary like the Ravens did this offseason to stop teams like the Chiefs. And so you are able to match up with Rice, Worthy, and Marquise Brown. You come back with Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, and Jaire Alexander, not to mention Chidobe Awuzie and TJ Tampa in that corner room, Kyle Hamilton and Malaki Starks in the back end. Like you have the guys to combat whether Rashee Rice plays or Rashee Rice doesn't play. But I think that, any little advantage, if Rashee Rice does miss this game, and it's something where he gets suspended for 4, 6, whatever it is, games, I don't know what it would look like. Maybe it is just 2. Again, I do not know. But the Ravens could be poised for pretty good news if Rashee Rice does miss the game, because it makes their path a little easier. And look, to me, I get what I said earlier about you want to beat your opponents while they're at their best, but at the same time, I think you do take advantage of advantages that you get. You should, at least. And Baltimore definitely could be able to, because that schedule is grueling. It's a grueling schedule. And we know that the Ravens have had trouble beating Kansas City this game. It always feels like the Ravens are going to Arrowhead. That's obviously happening again here this year. So, it's always a tough place to play, but I feel more confident in this Ravens roster. I think it is the best roster in the NFL, just barely beating out Philadelphia. And, if you have Philly over Baltimore, I don't blame you. Both rosters are extremely talented. I think adding Jaire was that final piece, the final infinity stone, if you will, to that defense and honestly to the team. Like the Ravens could stand to add another piece to fully wrap up their roster. But I think they're really, really set right now. And a team like the Bills, who they've struggled to beat in the playoffs, obviously regular season last year was a different story. I feel like Baltimore, they should beat Buffalo again. That's my pick for, this year for the Bills and Ravens in week 1. Then you have the home opener against the Browns, the Lions, and then the Chiefs. That month stretch in itself is really tough. I'm not as high on the Texans as, maybe some people. I don't really think people are that high on the Texans this year, but regardless, still a division winner, right? Got to respect that fact of it, that aspect. And then the Rams are a team that I think are really talented. And the Ravens have 4 of their first 6 games at home. The only games that they play on the road are the Bills and the Chiefs, which arguably are 2 of the hardest places to play in the NFL. So I guess it's kind of fitting. You do the number trade-off with home away games with the difficulty of places to play. But, man, it could impact, and it would impact the game if Rashee Rice misses it, and that's the thing with injury, suspensions, guys missing for other reasons, like full strength versus full strength. Teams are going to be competitive. Teams have good rosters. Like the Chiefs, really great roster when everybody's healthy. Ravens, really great roster when everybody's healthy. But there are those other factors, right? It's the other factors that can skew a game in a way that either is to your advantage or to your disadvantage. And, it's just factual that if Rashee Rice were to miss this game against the Ravens, it would be an advantage towards Baltimore. So again, there's no guarantee that anything happens here from the Ravens perspective, but it is a pretty big domino in the NFL to fall, because people were wondering when this process was going to be resolved or there was going to be a ruling. And now there is a clearer timeline. Still nothing has happened in terms of NFL discipline yet, but we will see if that drops in the coming days, weeks. I don't know. So just a potential piece of good news that the Ravens are poised for in terms of a star player from the opponent's team missing a game. But again, the Ravens, if Rashee Rice does play, I still think they're in good shape. Coming up, though, in the second part of the show, Kyle Van Noy, he backed Roquan Smith in a very passionate way on social media after an anonymous NFL assistant ripped into Roquan. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming up on the show. First, this show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Now, Monarch is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, so you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building up your wealth. And for me, I have been really big on saving. The goal I've had for a while is to just be able to save money and get a head start on that. And Monarch has helped me do that, especially because everything is in one place on Monarch, which it just makes my life so much easier compared to what it was, because you have everything right there on Monarch. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Friday edition of the show. I cannot believe that next week is when the vets report. They come into camp, and we're going to get those positional battles and guys fighting for roster spots. Like, football is truly almost back. Like, it is truly almost here. We've waited so long for this, and we actually had some of those conversations, the roster battles, positional battles, over on the Locked On Ravens Squad show, which is right here on the Locked On Ravens YouTube channel, audio channels, everywhere you get the show. We have the Squad show Mondays and Thursdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, live. It's on YouTube live, but then you can also listen to it in audio form and after the fact in video form. It's myself, Kadri Ismail, and Sam Njoku. We dive into everything Ravens, and we had some of those conversations. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to do so, and be sure to tune in live with us on Mondays and Thursdays. Or again, if you can't catch the live shows, we have you covered. You can catch it after the fact. But I want to talk now about Kyle Van Noy just absolutely roasting this anonymous NFL assistant. Jeremy Fowler, we talked about this yesterday, so if you want a little bit more context, you can check out yesterday's show. Jeremy Fowler releases these rankings, position by position, and it is a compiled list of rankings from NFL coaches, executives, and scouts. And Jeremy Fowler puts it together. He runs the rankings, their comments are put in there. And for off-ball linebackers, Roquan Smith was ranked number 2. You think, hey, that's a pretty good rating, right? Number 2 is not bad. Fred Warner was number 1, and, Fred Warner's a beast, so I get it. But in that ranking, there was a comment at the end by an anonymous NFL defensive assistant that said that he believed that Roquan needs to get in better shape and that he looks a little sluggish at times. And this, quote's been circulating on social media, and Kyle Van Noy caught wind of it, and he responded to it and said, "Hey, Jay Fowler, tell that NFL assistant to EAD because Agent Zero is on some, and you are a B for hiding. Put your name on it." So, look, this is a family-friendly show. If you want to look up what EAD means, you can. If you already know, congratulations. But Kyle Van Noy was not holding anything back on this anonymous NFL assistant. Look, I agree. I went on a mini rant about this on yesterday's show. Kyle Van Noy and I were on the same wavelength. Put your name on it. Do not be a coward. This anonymous stuff with, people being able to hide their identities while just blasting players or coaches or whoever it is, like anything where you don't feel confident enough to put your name on it because, it's going to hurt my team or it's bulletin board material or hurt my image. Okay, cool. Then don't say it. There can't be like rewards for people being able to say whatever they want about somebody and then not being able to put their name on it. It is cowardly, in my opinion. I 100% agree with Kyle Van Noy. I back him on this. And actually is literally we're talking about this and I'm just, getting more context to it. I'm looking here and I see Torrey Smith also commented on this and said, quote, anonymous is another way to say ain't got no nuts. If you're going to challenge a player's commitment, stand on it. Keep him motivated, though. The city needs it. He is going to ball. I agree. I mean, stand on it. Like, put your name on it, stand on it. All these things, they're 100% correct. My prediction for Roquan, and, I mentioned, oh, man, football's almost back. Guys are coming in, vets are coming into training camp. Last year, the picks from Roquan Smith at training camp, he did look big, like he looked bigger. And, I'm not necessarily saying that in like he was strong and muscular. No, he just looked bigger. And those pictures circulated. They went viral like the whole 9 yards. I think this year Roquan Smith is going to make like a, hey, I'm here type of statement. And it's not like Roquan was bad last year. I mean, we went over his stats on yesterday's show and, hit the progression of his year. Like, I get that he did look bigger and looked sluggish at times last season. Like that's true. He did look, based off of Roquan Smith's standards, he did look slow, especially in that week 1 game like I talked about. He didn't look like Roquan Smith. He also had a lot on his plate. There's context to it. And Roquan's my guy. Like, I love Roquan. The way that he played at the beginning of the season last year was not, we were not used to that when it came to Roquan Smith. Now, as the Ravens made their defensive changes, and I think he kind of played his way into shape throughout the year a little bit, he got a lot better and kind of back to that Roquan that we all know and love here in Baltimore. But that doesn't give you an excuse, especially if you are in the league, you are an assistant, and you're just saying this with, there's no name to your words. Like, that to me is one of the ultimate forms of being a coward. And all these players are calling it out because it's empowering people to just be able to say whatever they want with no consequences. And that's not how it should be. Like, if I was Jeremy Fowler, I would require that you put your name on it. Now, what does that do to Jeremy Fowler? If he does that, you probably get less responses, and that hurts his content. So that to me is why I think he does it, is because people being able to speak under, no, like, hey, your name's not getting put on this, don't worry, is you get more honesty from guys. And, in this case, it was brutal honesty. But again, it's just like guys can say whatever they want. And that to me is not right. It is just 1,000% not right. So, you know what? Shout out to Kyle Van Noy. Shout out to Torrey Smith and everybody else who was sticking up for Roquan here, because, it's totally fair to have a conversation about how Roquan looked in the beginning of last season. Like, he did look bigger, he did look slower, but then the credit, I want that credit to be had for him where, yeah, he did look better in the second half of the season. It doesn't necessarily excuse some of the things that happened in the first half of the season. But again, people talk about Roquan last year like he was just like the worst linebacker on the field in those games, or like the worst middle linebacker in the league. That was not true. It just, when you're a star like Roquan is, or, like a Lamar type of guy, Kyle Hamilton, etc., you have a different set of expectations than, someone who's just an average NFL player. And so if you still perform good or somewhat good, but you're expected to perform great, then, it's not good in a lot of people's eyes. So that to me is, I think, where that is lost in translation a little bit. But moral of the story here, and I'm keep saying it, I've said it forever, put your name on it. I'm done with the anonymous stuff. Like, I'm done with it. Put your name on it, stand on it, or don't say it at all. So that's where I am on that. But coming up in the final part of the show, finally, there is some good news on Mike Green. We've been waiting a while for it, and it finally happened. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming up on the show. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Friday edition of the show. Again, appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens your first listen of the day, and just a part of your day in general. This is episode number 1,555 for me on Locked On Ravens consecutively, coming up on 6 years of hosting this show. So it's been a heck of a journey. I can't wait for it to continue here on, this incredible network with incredible people, and obviously the incredible community that we have built up both in video form and audio form, social media, subtext, everywhere. We have amazing communities, and I just can't thank everybody enough. So be sure to follow me over on social media, by the way. KSRecord34, Twitter, Instagram. I think I'm going to get on the TikTok wave soon. I think everybody's on that now. So, I feel like I should probably start that. So be on the lookout for that as well. But, I can't thank everybody enough for the support here. And once it gets to 6 years, it'll come, sometime in August for me. I'll acknowledge it, and we'll have a little celebration. But for now, the grind continues, and it will always continue over here on Locked On Ravens. Now, we got good news on Mike Green. Finally, there has been an abundance of second-round picks that have not signed their rookie deals. Now, this has been due to guaranteed money. The Texans guaranteed, their second-round pick, fully guaranteed contract, fully guaranteed. And there's always been a little bit of a dispute, or at least sometimes, right? There's a dispute with the second-rounders and the money and the slot and et cetera, et cetera. Now, this year it was I think really only one or two second rounders signed, maybe a couple more than that, but only a few second rounders ended up signing their deals prior to this it's not a deadline, but prior to the past couple of days. But that logjam has started to open up here, and Mike Green is now officially a Baltimore Raven, as the Ravens announced that they signed Mike Green to his 4-year rookie contract on Thursday. And Brian McFarland over at Ravens Salary Cap, he knows his stuff. We have him on the show. He is great, and he knows all things Ravens Salary Cap. Green's deal will be a 4-year deal worth $7.419 million with a signing bonus of about just over $2 million. And his 2025 cap number will be 1.35-ish, right around there, $1.35 million. So, first of all, very glad that this is over. I know that people didn't want to see Mike Green in a holdout or hold-in situation heading into the practices of training camp. I know rookies have reported already that happened on Tuesday, but really glad that this is all over and Mike Green is officially a Raven. Now, that leads me into my expectations for Mike Green. And if you've been listening to me on this show, you've caught shows in the last couple of months, especially after the draft. Even if you caught him before the draft, that I thought that Mike Green was a top 15 talent. It was all about, the off-field stuff for him and where he was going to land. And obviously Baltimore felt comfortable enough to be able to take him in the second round where he fell. They were able to get him and Malaki Starks, which is just an absolutely incredible haul for them. But in terms of expectations, you just see the raw talent from Mike Green. He's a 3-down player. It's not like he's a situational pass rusher. He can play on early down, stuff the run, and also be disruptive as a pass rusher. He has an array of moves. It's an arsenal. He has a patented spin move. He's a speed to power guy, and as he adds more onto his frame, he'll be able to convert a ton of that. Like, it's just the conversion rate to him where he picks up speed and then boom, offensive linemen can't react. They get thrown off. And to me, it's impressive. The first step that he has, the tenacity he plays with, his motor. It's crazy. And it's like, it's always cliche, or it's like, oh yeah, right. No way. It's just something you say. But no, this is true about Mike Green, where one of the negatives in his scouting report was that sometimes he plays too hard. And again, like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, oh, the cliche, cool, yeah. Oh, he plays too hard. Yeah, okay. But it's you see it on the tape. Like, he literally will gas himself out by playing too hard. Look, I don't think that's a bad thing personally. Like, I'd rather have a guy go 110% every single play as opposed to 90 every single play. Like, I get conserving your stamina and whatnot, but man, I want a guy that goes out there and just and attacks every single play. And so when you talk about expectations, I mean, not only for his rookie year, but for his Ravens career. And again, like, I'm not trying to place too many high expectations on the guy. I mean, he hasn't played a snap yet, and I don't think that's fair. But, at the end of the day, I think that Mike Green truly has superstar potential. I've said this over and over. If you've listened to me on Locked On Ravens, you're probably sick of me saying this, but I'm going to say it again. So I apologize if you've heard it over and over again. But everyone in the AFC North outside of Baltimore has had that guy, like that star stud pass rusher. Myles Garrett in Cleveland, TJ Watt, who just signed an extension, by the way, in Pittsburgh, and Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. I mean, the Ravens haven't had that guy since Terrell Suggs. They've gone through a bunch of guys, and they've not found that like star pass rusher. And I think that Mike Green, he has that potential. And I said it last year with or 2 years ago with Zay Flowers, where I thought that after Zay's rookie year, he was going to be the best wide receiver on the Ravens. And he was the best wide receiver on the Ravens by the time week 1 ended. I think we could be in the same situation with Mike Green, where him in a rotation with Odafe Owe, Kyle Van Noy, Tavius Robinson, Adisa Isaac, maybe David Ajabo. I'm not so sure about that, but still, like you're very deep at that position. But I just think that while Odafe Owe had a double-digit sack season last year and he was awesome, he wasn't as consistent as you needed him to be. Kyle Van Noy has been super steady for them and an awesome addition. Like he, to me, is one of the Ravens' best signings ever based off of value of contract and production. But I think that Mike Green has a much higher ceiling than any of those guys. And honestly, the floor it might already be either just below or up to that level already. I think I don't want to go too far above that because he hasn't played a snap yet. Career expectations, it's a little different because like I feel he can be the best pass rusher on this team by the time the season ends at the very minimum. But it's just the raw talent is absolutely there. The production is there. People, he played at Marshall, Virginia. Those are small schools. Well, turn on the tape against Ohio State, which is, pretty good school, by the way. They might have won the national championship last year if you didn't realize that. They're a good school. Mike Green had a great game against them. Everything is there. Everything is setting up for him. And I feel like, especially in the AFC North, where the offensive lines, there aren't great offensive lines in the AFC North. Baltimore's, I think, honestly, is the best. I know that there are really talented guys on each of those lines, but I think Baltimore's, and that's honestly saying something with the guard spots. I think, in my opinion, Mike Green could make an impact early on, hard-nosed AFC North football. I think the stars are aligning here for Mike Green, and you're going to get the production that you got from Nate Wiggins and Roger Rosengarten into first and second round picks from Malaki Starks and Mike Green this year. So look, there's so much to be excited about this year for the Ravens, whether it's the roster, the rookie class, the expectations, the Super Bowl potential, like this to me, and they've had great years. Now, I think the misconception is when I say the Ravens have had three great chances to win a Super Bowl in the Lamar Jackson era, like 2019, 2023, 2024, they were really only heavy favorites coming into the season in 2024. 2019, that was Lamar's second season. The big question in 2019, that's when that was the first season I did the show, and that's all we talked. I took it over in August of 2019, and all I talked about up until week 1 for the most part was, what's the next step for Lamar Jackson? Because everybody was talking about, he had a great rookie season, came in for Joe and did the thing, but, is he going to get figured out? Is he going to be able to sustain that? The Ravens were not regarded as this, top team in 2019. They just kind of brute forced their way in that conversation with how dominant they were. 2023, the conversation around Lamar was, can he stay healthy? He had missed the back end of 2021 and 2022. So everyone was talking about, oh man, all right, this is Lamar, he's injury prone, and then he went in and he won the MVP. So that was, again, the Ravens kind of brute forcing the way into that conversation. 2024 was the year that they were truly regarded as favorites or one of the favorites. This is the second straight year of that, but I think this roster is the best they have had, and that is all across the board. Roster additions with veterans and also the draft class, the guys that they didn't lose compared to what they lost in 2024 and 2023 in those off seasons. So look, I'm not saying they're going to win it, right? That'd be foolish of me. You got to play the games out. The NFL is not won on paper. Super Bowls aren't won on paper. But man, I am pumped, absolutely pumped for this season. But that's all I have here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Might have some bonus episodes this weekend, not sure yet. So, we'll see what the news cycle brings. But if not, we'll be right back here on Monday with more Ravens content. So be sure on the way out, hit the like and subscribe button in video form, follow along in audio form, and I will see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.